Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Love and Law. My name is Virginia Warren. I'm a lawyer and conflict alchemist and co-founder of an organisation called Lawyers for Love. Lawyers for Love, we see that the legal system in its present form uses fear-based techniques to solve problems, whereas we're saying that to solve a problem, you need a higher level of consciousness than the consciousness that was used to create the conflict. We call that level of consciousness love. And in these live broadcasts, we are showcasing lawyers from around the world that are bringing some love into their legal practice in their own unique ways. And it just shows us that there are so many different ways that you can bring love into your work. People don't like the word love because they don't know what it is, but love is kindness, compassion, joy, just a different way of seeing things, a bit more uniting way. So today it gives me the awesome pleasure to welcome the absolutely delightful Jenna Hill to Love and Law. And we met firstly at a collaborative law conference in Byron Bay. So that was really, really awesome. And sort of we've stayed in touch ever since. And Jenna's absolutely fantastic. She's a senior solicitor and practice manager of Randall Legal. Randall Legal is one of the largest all-female firms in Australia. I love that. And is located in Lismore, New South Wales. Jenna was compelled to become a lawyer after witnessing her own family navigate divorce and judgments of single parenthood. Jenna is passionate about representing survivors of childhood sexual abuse, domestic violence, and unlawful police conduct. Described as not your typical lawyer, Jenna uses heart-centered techniques to support her clients and says she likes to shield them as they progress through arduous legal proceedings. Jenna is also passionate about creating supportive teams in the workplace, given the propensity of lawyerland to be aggressive and highly strung. So welcome, Jenna. It's so awesome to speak in this space and talk about what you're doing to bring your unique perspective to the table in law, in lawyerland. And tell me then a little bit about how you first got into law.
It's so great to be here. Thank you so much. It's interesting. Growing up, I was raised by a single mum, and what I saw wasn't right. I saw a lot of shame in relation to my mum's circumstances, and even as a child, I knew that that wasn't right because I could see my mum working so hard for my sister and I. So I'm a twin, so everything happened at the same time for us, and it was really difficult for her to kids in different ages have different needs. We had the same need times two all the time. So, and she navigated that with such ease, notwithstanding all the difficulties she's faced. So she worked in a very male-dominated industry, and they didn't accept that women could be breadwinners. So they didn't consider that she was actually being employed to support two young girls, which blows my mind that that wasn't a consideration at the time. So this happened, 25 plus years ago, so a long time now, but just wasn't something that was considered, to the point that, there were work colleagues that would prank call our house to attempt to scare my mum because she wasn't, the normal family of the nuclear circle. So that was really difficult, and, it was really hard as a kid watching that. And you felt extremely helpless and vulnerable because there's nothing I could do as an 8-year-old. I couldn't do anything. I just had to sit there and watch it unfold. And it was really quite distressing. And so I didn't ever want to be in that position again. And so I worked out from a pretty young age that knowledge is power, even though that sounds extremely cliche, but it is. And so as a result of that, witnessing all of those things, I made the decision to become a lawyer, although I never anticipated becoming a family lawyer. But I don't just do family law, I do a lot of other work in other areas, such as survivors of childhood sexual assault. And I'm also extremely passionate about working with people who are victims of unlawful police conduct, such as illegal strip searching and false imprisonments and work like that.
Yeah, wow. That's probably a very colourful, Yeah, very colourful sort of career you've got there.
It is. I love it. It's, well, who actually, makes the police accountable? If brave people don't stand up and say, hey, this is wrong, who does? Nobody.
Yeah,
It's really important. And my client.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for you, I suppose, and this is where people say, oh, it was awful seeing my mum go through that or going through these experiences. But don't you think that it's helped you see, oh, I could even see at a young age, see, they don't give children credit for what children can see, particularly when we're talking about family law matters and saying, well, the children are more okay than from one point of view. They do understand. However, parents obviously could be a little bit more appropriate in some situations. But yeah, what you went through as a child, it's given you that compulsion to get out and help people, which is beautiful. And so where did that take you? Where did it take you?
Well, I knew I wanted to study law, but I didn't ever expect to be a lawyer. I didn't actually really know exactly what I was going to do with my degree, but I was going to do something. And funnily enough, one of my mum's bosses, who was actually really supportive of her, had a daughter who went on to form her own law firm. That's Clarissa Raywood, who ran the collaborative law conference at university. And she was actually my teacher when I was 5. So I arranged to do some work experience with her, and as a result of that, I got a job as a secretary in her firm in Brisbane. Wow. So that was my first steps into lawyerland. And I call it lawyerland because there's no place quite like it. It is a really strange place to be operating in. And I think lawyers forget that it's not normal. It's not normal to be so particular about what you say and what you write and how you communicate and how you present and, the image you give to the world. And if you're a client looking into lawyerland, it is terrifying. And we just take it for granted. And lawyers have to understand that you can't do that. It's completely foreign to everyone except lawyers.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that we've been trained, left brain thinking and dealing with a problem devoid of emotion. Now you're working in the absolute center of law, where there's all emotion. Law is about the relationship of humans. We have humans in there with real human problems, and if you can't understand them, I think the difficulty is that lawyers don't want to get enmeshed with the emotion. But that's another skill set that needs to be taught, so that you can stand back objectively as best as you can, see what the humans are going through and help them through that space. But it is amazing what you're saying, lawyerland, like it is another sort of entity, because it isn't normal. It's not a normal existence at all, and people don't understand it. And people go to their lawyer saying, guide me, tell me what to do because I don't know. And then the lawyer doesn't even understand the way they communicate can really affect their client in a particular way. I had a client one time in front of me who said, do you know what it's like to receive a letter from a lawyer?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that until I got them myself in my own family law matter. And they push all the buttons, and it's like crazy.
And I think lawyers forget that your client's in front of you, they're seeing you on their worst day of their entire life. They don't come to you for any other reason. It's not for fun. It's not because they want to. They have to come to you. And there's like nearly no choice. They have no choice but to sit there in front of you in your office. And if you don't take that into consideration when you're speaking to your client for the very first time, then you are not going to be able to form any type of relationship with them because they're not going to trust you.
Yeah.
If you can't recognise that they're going through an incredibly difficult time, you don't communicate that you understand that they don't want to be here, that they're terrified, then there simply won't be a relationship. And I think that's where a lot of lawyers fall down, and that's where miscommunications happen and, matters explode, because that level of, there's a disconnect in terms of the level of communication. And it's
so
sad.
absolutely. I know.
It's like,
And
sitting here doing this work. We're in different lands. I'm in lawyerland. They're in their own normal outside lawyerland, life, but we're still humans and we've got to navigate it together.
I was so fortunate to be sitting on the other side of the desk as a client to see that, because a lawyer does not see it. Absolutely. And I think if the public understand that, yes, you're right. They come in at the worst point in their lives. They come in kicking and screaming, I don't want to be here. And so how do we know that? Bring them in with all this resistance. How do we help them across that line? And I think it is a case of people want to be heard and they want to be held, metaphorically. Like, it just, someone hear me and hold me, because I am having an absolute breakdown here. My life is falling apart before my eyes. And then when you're in a system that just processes you like you're a number and you don't exist, because that's what I felt in the system. And I'm a lawyer, I get it. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. So it's just even that tiny little bit of compassion, having some understanding for the client and saying, wow, all your dirty laundry is basically exposed for the world and we're just going to push it around like it means nothing.
Yeah. Well, in particular, my clients that are survivors of childhood sexual abuse, it's often the case that they've never told anyone what they're telling me. They haven't even told their own mother. That's incredible. And for them to sit there and tell me these things, and then they say to me, oh, Jenna, I'm really sorry you have to listen to this. They apologise for telling me their story. That's incredible. And I don't know many professions, maybe other than doctors, who have that experience. And it's something to be treasured, and it's a humbling, and it's amazing. And if you don't give it that credit, and if you don't acknowledge to that person that you are so brave, and I am so humbled, and it's such a privilege for me to hear that information, it could have devastating consequences. For example, telling a client you as a lawyer their story, and then you just handing them a costs agreement. I mean, that would be.
I know.
I've heard of that happening. It would be a nightmare. No wonder lawyers have the reputation that we do at times. It's because it's handled incorrectly when it should be handled delicately, and with care and respect and compassion.
And the funny thing is that a lot of lawyers aren't taught, and a lot of people aren't even taught this, is that everyone that shares an experience with you, that it's coming from the heart, a genuine experience, is actually enriching your life. You don't realize it because you're here, or my belief is you're here on this planet to experience all of it. Mm-hmm. So, and you might have come in for certain experiences or whatever it is. I have a different philosophy about all of that. But as a lawyer, if you have the opportunity to actually hear what's going on, and without sort of enmeshing yourself in it, but hear it, you get to share in that experience. It's quite an interesting thing to enrich your own life and feel that you've been like this, the person to hold space for that person that just needed to, as Freud said, listening is healing. So just to be an active listener, a person then hears themselves back and then can often solve what it is that they're going through, because someone actually listens. Because that's most of these places where you get a lot of psychology. Because you're right, a lawyer hears it, a doctor, not many even counsellors hear it, because a lot of people don't want to go to a counsellor. I don't want to tell anyone. Until it becomes a legal problem, no one is going to hear this story from me, and until I have to tell it.
Yeah, and the incredible shame that people feel. And it just, in circumstances where a victim and you've done nothing wrong, and the shame you feel, even though it's just, if you don't come from a perspective of understanding and it's just not going to work for the client, and they're just going to be even more traumatized as a result of coming in and seeing you. And that's not the point. The point is for us to protect them. Like, lawyers are to protect their clients' interests, not to re-traumatize them in the process.
Yeah, of not being heard. That's where I feel that step one for a lawyer is hear. Just listen. You don't have to do a lot more than that, because you're not there to fix them. That's not your role either. You're not there to fix a client, because I think that's where a lot of lawyers get afraid, like they're going to tell me too much and they're going to want me to do something about that from their own, because it hurts. It's all a hurt and a shame and a guilt and those sorts of things. So to actually hear is a really important thing. So this is, you're working in what is this in the criminal division, or is it in family law, that when we're talking about sexual abuse?
So, interesting enough, the firm that I work for is predominantly a criminal defence practice, and a lot of my work comes from those practices, because obviously it's pretty common that most people who commit criminal offences are often the case being victimised in some way, shape or form themselves. And so a lot of my work comes from that practice. So it's civil work, and most of my matters end up either in the Supreme Court or the District Court. And so we run matters not just in New South Wales, but in Victoria, a number of other jurisdictions as well. Wow. So we're quite wide-reaching, and they're really difficult matters to run, but they are so worthwhile. And a lot of lawyers don't want to run these matters, and that's why often the case they refer them to me, because that's a passion of mine and it's something that I feel that is really important. And a lot of my other work ties in as well. So, for instance, I do a lot of work with property, which also ties into family. Family often ties into crime, and so effectively in the firm that I work for, we have basically a self-referring system, so that we can deal with most of our clients' legal problems all in one house. There might be a range of different lawyers depending on what area they have expertise in.
And you're so right, because it's all connected. This is where people are trying to isolate this, and this is not part of anything else. It's just this little bit of life and put in a box. No, it's all connected. Your whole life, and it connects to your whole family, your friends group, everything. It's all connected. And that's what we also need to, all these decisions, we need to keep those sorts of things in mind. So what sort of advice would you give to another lawyer? Because I often get the question, I don't want to get emotionally involved in this situation. So how do you keep yourself out of that? How do you not take it at home with you?
Pardon?
How do you not take that home with you? That emotional connection, because that's a very sort of traumatic area to work in. How do you sort of keep yourself feeling light and bubbly about life when you're dealing with all those kinds of matters on a daily basis?
Oh, it's always a challenge. It's always something I struggle with a little bit, just because I feel like it's such an important thing. So I try really hard to set up some boundaries as well, because on the flip side, you're there to protect your client, but also you're not serving your client if you're not feeling okay. So I'm not very good at it, but I try to have start and finish times that I always stick to. Otherwise, I could work 24 hours a day, which doesn't help anybody, least of all me. And I do a lot of debriefing with my colleagues. I mean, we all work in areas that are really difficult. I mean, when people are going into custody and losing their freedom, that's an incredibly traumatic experience to go through. So they're in essence, have similarities about them. So we'll often debrief about things. And the great thing about the office that I work in is that it's okay to show our emotion. Like, I'll often have a conference with a client and I'll hold my tears in for a whole hour, and then they'll leave, and then I can finally burst into tears because what I'm hearing is just so awful. It's really terrible, and it's some of the worst things that you'll probably ever have to hear. And I've got to process that. It's got to come out in some way, shape, or form. And I know a lot of lawyers are quite big drinkers, and that doesn't work. You can't do that. And so I just find that sometimes after the conference, dealing with your emotions afterwards stops any other negative repercussions for happening. It's so easy, I imagine, to slide into having a few drinks or, after work to kind of settle yourself. But that's not healthy. It's not sustainable. Really bad habits.
Do you know, that's so
I'll
true.
lose it for a while because I'll be upset for quite a while, but I find that's better for me to do it that way. And no one here judges me. I'm sure in a lot of other offices that would be different, but I've had situations where I've had to deal with something incredibly difficult. The clients just told me. They've left, I burst into tears, and one of my assistants will come in and spend a couple of minutes with me talking to me and helping me process it. And I don't know many firms that have, or lawyers that have the ability to do that because their staff are all so close. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. They're not trained. Lawyers aren't trained to do that. It's as simple as that. They're not trained in trauma. And because it's interesting, in the wild, for example, and I know this sounds really trite, but if you've got like a lion chasing a deer, the deer will then, once the danger is gone, the deer will literally shake it off. They'll shake it off and just get back to what they were doing. So what we're doing as humans, and we're all doing it, is holding on to any emotion that should be discharged. It should be discharged so it doesn't really, we're energetic beings. And so to hold that in your energy body is to then start to create a dis-ease. And a lot of people, that's right, they'll drink it. They'll say, oh, it's painful. I still feel this pain. Let me just numb it. No, you actually got to feel it and move it through the system to start to keep feeling clean. It's energy hygiene. It's really important to keep that going. So what you're doing is absolutely marvelous. Yeah.
Well, for a while there, I would, particularly if I have to write a lot of statements. So I have a conference with a client, and then I'll take their instructions, and then just so I can think to be able to format it correctly and to sort of put it in a chronological order, I'll then later go back and write the statement out. And I was finding that for a little while, I would have a box of chocolates next to me, and I'd just shove a chocolate in my mouth every paragraph, writing these real statements. And I found I can't do that.
Yeah, chocolate's the other saviour.
It is, but when you're doing it, a couple of times a week.
I know, and it's just funny if you've got a box sitting there and you just slowly where did the chocolates go? They're gone.
I had to stop it because I was like, for a little while there, I'd have to eat cookies for breakfast so I could get up in the morning and feel okay about what I had to do that day. And you can't do it. I've tried.
I'm sure if we all sat around, we'd have all our little secret things that have happened, because that's exactly what I used to do as well. I drank a lot of wine. I did all that sort of stuff. I don't do any of that anymore because I've changed my way of thinking and dealing with emotion, because that is really important. We're not trained in emotion. We're not trained how to deal with it. And so we'll just, hold it all in. One day it's going to pop. It just does. It's as simple as that. And you'll lash out at a colleague. You'll burn out. You'll lash out at clients. We've seen that, particularly in the criminal system. Some of my criminal law friends, they just see other lawyers, lashing out at clients. It's not helpful to anybody in the system, because my belief is the system isn't geared very well. So you're doing very, very well in discharging the emotion after and having supportive colleagues, because I think that's really, really important.
It is. And I'm really lucky in that respect to be able to do that, because a lot of people would think that perhaps that's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's literally just what you said, energy coming in and going out.
Yeah. Hygiene, keeping it clean. You brush your teeth every day, keep your energy clean as well. And because when you do that, you actually have more, you get more connected because there's no blockages in your system. You can connect to a client. You can really hear what's going on. You've got that intuition that's happening, and it's really important. You can sort of see when the client's really not telling you all that they could be telling you, or a different story or something else. You can feel it. But if you're shut down, if you shut everything down, you not only don't connect with them, you don't connect with you. It is putting your own oxygen mask on first, looking after you first.
And I think there's a way to look. We do have to get a certain amount of information from our clients, and our clients don't know what that information is and what's important and what's not. So they'll just try and tell you the entire story, and so you'll sit there and you might spend an hour with them and not get all the information you need to be able to make an assessment of their matter. And so I find it's just as simple as saying to them, I really do want to hear your story, and it's really important that I hear the whole story. But would you mind if I could just ask you a few questions and direct you so I can get the information I need? And 10 out of 10 times, it works like a dream, and they're not offended, and they're like, oh, sure. And then they give me the information I need. I can then make the assessment, and then I'm not wasting their time, and I'm not wasting my time, and we're all on the same page. It's just
I've often said to a client, I've said to a client before, it's like, there is nothing I haven't heard. There's nothing I haven't heard. Nothing's out of bounds. Tell me everything. It stays in these walls, and it's just a good discharge as well for them. It's such an interesting field that not many people want to work in. So we're really grateful that someone like you likes that work as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard. I'm not going to pretend it's not, or make out like it's easy. Like, it is really, really difficult because a lot of my clients are really unwell. No wonder, considering what they've been through.
Yeah.
But the satisfaction that I get is immense because, I mean, you can see it. Once they've told their story, it's like their whole body just relaxes.
Yeah.
And you've got to find ways to do this work to limit the amount of trauma they're going to experience. And sometimes it's hard because they are going to be, traumatized throughout the process. I can only shield them to a certain extent, but I can prepare them for that, and I can make appropriate referrals. And I can do a whole range of things that will just shield them that little bit extra.
Yeah. So tell me, so you're in the defence side of things. What about for the prosecution? What sort of tactics are used in sort of relating to the person that was on the other side? Is there any sort of particular way you deal with that?
Well, I'm lucky in that I act for both plaintiffs and defendants. Okay. And I think that's really important. I find that if you just act for one side, how can you see the other side? You can't. Okay. And so if you do, and sometimes, it can create a bit of a problem because people think, oh, well, I'm not happy with you acting for the other side. But it's actually positive because you can see how they're thinking, how they're going to react, what they're likely to do. And it's important to have that as well, to be able to see from both perspectives.
Yeah, 100%. That's so important. And I'm so happy you've said that because the way I see things is everyone's position is true for them. That's the thing people don't understand. We're running with this victim mentality all the time. I've experienced my life many things, and I see that everyone's perspective was true for them in their situation because that's what the programs they're running on. It's like, oh, well, I did this because this has made me feel better doing this. No other reason. It really had nothing to do with the other person. It was a self-generated reaction to life. And this is what people don't understand. And a lot of people are holding on to their victim but if it's a placeholder in life, victim, if you don't let that go, you don't move, you don't grow, you don't, energy hygiene. Victim mentality is also an energy that we're holding.
And this is the whole point. Like, people don't come to me because they want money or something. They come to me because they want to hold someone accountable, and then move on with the rest of their life. Don't feel like they can move on until this thing is addressed. That is the whole point. There is no other motivation. It's not about the money, because, you know, how can you put a money value on a life? You can't.
No.
So no matter what amount of money they're going to get, it's never going to be enough. So it's not about that. And I think that's a big myth in our society, that people are just trying to commence proceedings or sue other people to get money. And that's the last consideration that's in our client's mind. It's about holding someone accountable for the wrong that was done to them.
I find that the legal system is used for perhaps, yes, accountability and blaming somebody, and also self-validating, or they're trying to be validated. Sometimes that works for people with money, but essentially, I heard of somebody that lost a job, was compensated by some money, and then said, no, now I want you to say sorry. And I'm thinking, you can't, I don't think, just get someone to say sorry. Have we we lost our connection. Are we still here? Yeah. And you can't just get someone to say sorry, don't you think? It's an interesting dynamic, all of this. I find it really interesting.
It's just difficult on so many levels. And
it is
so interesting. But I find it difficult as well, like, you know, from an objective perspective, you go, ooh, that's interesting. That's actually really, really offensive. And that's a part of lawyerland. This idea that, the more, you know, trauma someone experiences, the more interesting their matter is. And it's just, that's horrific.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are experiences, and, you know, I've been through many and I've survived them, and in hindsight, they were interesting. So, and they were valuable. I wouldn't be the person I am now without those experiences, because some of us, you know, think we'd like to live a vanilla life, but the vanilla life has no flavor but vanilla. and so these beautiful experiences, and I know they're traumatic, but it is a question of living through them sometimes. And, you know, that's a topic for another day, because a lot of people just can't see that, which is a shame for them, because you can look at all of this in a completely different way. And I guess you've seen that some people have had more of a sort of a point of view that, oh, you know, like, yeah, I'm working my way through this. You know, I'm working my way through what value in there is it for me? What do I get out of this in the end? Yeah, the money doesn't pay for the value that can be obtained. Yeah. So tell me, what do you think about the court mergers, the family court mergers? I'm interested to hear some perspectives on that.
Oh, they make me incredibly nervous.
Okay, tell me why.
Well, the family court deals with more complex matters, and, you know, allegations of child sexual assault and really extreme examples of DV. And if we take away those specialist courts and pop them back into the Federal Circuit Court, which is already under-resourced, you know, we can't just think, it's not just about our clients as well, it's about the judiciary as well. How are they expected to handle all of those cases?
Yeah.
How many more judges are we going to employ? You know, like, there's so many considerations to be taken into account. And, you know, matters are constantly being adjourned at the moment. I think due to COVID, unfortunately, the court is bringing matters forward, they'll bring them back, they'll bring them forward. And, you know, our clients are experiencing such upheaval at the moment, because that's why they're there in the family court, that then to have their matters brought back and brought forward creates this even more upheaval in their lives. And it's untenable. How do you live like that? It's unbelievable. And I have so much compassion at the moment for people going through these systems, because it's untenable for these people, for their lives to be put on hold. But on the flip side of that, well, how else do we do it? You know, this is just, you know, obviously there's big problems with it. And it's, you know, if you don't have that background, I find it very difficult for politicians to make decisions when, you know, are they, you know, in the family court watching this happen? Do they understand what the process is about? Do they
or
sit
is it
there
happening to them? Or is it happening to them? Because when you are in the system, it's certainly an eye-opener. You know, the system is an eye-opener. It's not pleasant. It's not a pleasant system at all. It doesn't. Yeah, and I've only been through the federal circuit court, so that's all I can tell you. I haven't been in the family court as a client or as a litigant, so I don't know. But and I've had very few cases that have been in the family court in those lists. So I can't really comment on all that. But I'm fascinated by practitioners that are seeing this merger and it's affecting their practices as well, and seeing how it's affecting their clients.
Well, I mean, I don't even know whether we're going to know what the impact is, and you know, for a little while down the track. And particularly when we've just gone through COVID, I mean, I found it was really difficult as a lawyer because my clients would come to me and say, Jenna, what do I do? And I'd have to say, listen, I haven't been through a global pandemic either. This is all we're all going to do the best that we can do with the information. And it was so fantastic that, you know, the Federal Circuit Court and the Family Court reacted very quickly, and they were much better set up in terms of technology to run their matters, you know, via distance.
Yeah.
So that's good, but we're still, I'm sure we won't see the impact of COVID on the family law system until, you know, at least another year. Because the reaction is still happening. We've just got to wait to see what that's going to look like. And if we make decisions now about things we don't even know what they're going to look like in potentially a year's time, it just makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah, like I really hear you there. Okay. So, and you're also saying that you're creating supportive teams within your workplace. So tell me about that, because I think that's what, you know, the law firm itself, and some of them I think are quite toxic, particularly very large firms where it's a numbers game. You're really working for the shareholder, not the client, and you know it's all about the dollar. And of course, and they're working lawyers around the clock. I've spoken to many lawyers like that. So you know, we all want to make a living. We all want to have fun. We want to get some value and some fulfillment out of our work. I don't know that many lawyers are actually doing that. Are you saying that you have some sort of way of getting that into your workplace? Yeah,
definitely. I'm really lucky. I have never worked in a toxic law firm environment. So I can only say from my own experiences. But I mean, I'm the practice manager here at Randall Legal. So one of my roles is I train and supervise and manage the admin team. Because when the firm was first opened, it was 3 lawyers and me as the assistant. And so I helped create a lot of the processes and procedures that are now in place, or played a role in developing them. So I manage that team, and I'm also assist my principal to manage and supervise the junior lawyers in our firm as well. So our work is so tough. If you're not supportive and you have a little bit of fun, you won't stay very long. And we can see it's very clear that people are leaving the law profession in droves. And that's not the point, because there is such talented people, but you can't see their talent because of the way they're being treated. Yeah. I mean, we've all heard those revolting stories about how young lawyers are treated. It's not okay. It should not happen. It wouldn't happen in another workplace. So why should it happen in the workplace?
Particularly in the law. I mean, in the law, it's a profession.
We are the most privileged people in this society. And look at the way we treat our colleagues. It's
crazy.
It's not okay. And I also don't like, I'm going to have a whinge now, I'm sorry.
Good, feel free.
The divide between the solicitors and the admin staff. Administrative staff are the backbone of any law firm. And if you don't know that, well, you've got problems in your firm.
Yeah.
It's a team. It's not the lawyer up here and the admin person down here. You have to work as a team. It's so important. It's very clear that's not the way it happens.
Yeah, everyone has a role to play, don't they? Everyone has a skill set. Everyone has a perspective. Bring in the best admin person, bring in the best lawyer, bring in the best, whatever it is your team needs for the best of all those people, and that you can work together. And it's a horizontal platform, not the vertical anymore. I just don't see that anymore.
Exactly. But I think it's taking a while to catch on. But our admin staff develop relationships with our clients, because I can't be 50 places at once. I can't take 100 phone calls in a day. So I rely on my team to assist me with that. And if they don't have those relationships, then it's going to be very difficult for them to assist me. So they have to develop those relationships. For example, I have a junior lawyer working with me, and I'll often ask her, can you ring this client? You've never spoken to them before. I'm going on leave for a couple of days. Can you ring them, introduce yourself so they know who you are? So not some random person is ringing them to give them an update. Like, just those little things that you can put in place are so important.
Yeah. They are. It is the connection with the client, isn't it? And the admin staff and your receptionist, all those people are the first point of call. You know, people want a smiling face, someone who's friendly and open and actually sort of feels like they care. They want to hear you. I just can't stress that enough. And I think it's to be heard between your teammates as well. Everyone hearing everybody.
You cannot possibly do the amount of work that we get through without having that supportive team around you. And it's, you know, if someone falls down, we all fall down. So we all have to support each other. And that means, you know, we go out for lunch often. We have firm dinners. I often have a meeting and we'll spend the first 15 minutes talking about our personal lives. You don't have to, but, you know, and I'm probably an oversharer, but, you know, we're all there to make sure we're all okay.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine if someone's having difficulty at home, their work performance isn't potentially going to be 100%, and you have to take that into consideration. There's got to be that push and pull. Like there's got to be a bit of give in all relationships. And
we spend more time with our work colleagues than we do with our partners. I mean, that's effectively it. And that people don't really realize that or take that. It's like, oh, I come to work, I do my thing and I go home. Well, that component of your life could be really emphasized as great value to you and all that surround you. And I know you don't often pick your work colleagues, but they're also there for your benefit in every level.
Well, I'm lucky because one of my assistants, I've been friends with her for 20 years. We went to high school together.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
So that's one, advantage of working in a regional area.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you don't have that, and also there's got to be some level of trust as well. Like, you know, we're human beings. We need rest and play. We can't be working all the time. We have to take leave at some point. Someone has to look after our files. We have to build the relationships. There's trust there so we can leave your files and know that they're going to be okay. And nothing's going to happen to them and it's all going to be fine. And if you don't build that relationship and build that trust, the system just doesn't work in a workplace.
Yeah, that's it. And I see workplaces like yours will probably survive a lot. You know, the larger firms that have got this toxic hierarchy, a lot of the young lawyers I see are moving out, and soon that's the foundation. I mean, they're drawing the power up, and I don't know how they're going to draw it up when there's no one down there anymore to order around. I think younger people are a lot more intelligent and want a lot more out of their lives now. So it's interesting.
I think a lot of people would describe that as being perhaps entitled, and it's not. It's just wanting a life, which we should all be entitled to have.
Because what do you want? You're going to do this to get what at the end? What are you going to get at the end? Of the end of what? When's the end coming? It might be tomorrow. Who knows? I want to max out my time here. Yeah.
Yeah. So important. And, you know, you are so much more productive when you are happy working somewhere. We've all had jobs where we've hated it, you know, everyone has. And if you're productive, we all know that. And so you have to have that. You're always going to have someone in your workplace that you might not get on with. But
that's life.
Well, it doesn't cost you anything to be kind.
No, it doesn't.
You know,
and you don't have to hang out with that person on the weekend. So, you know, that's it. Exactly. You can just be compassionate and kind.
Yeah. So simple.
Now tell me, I think we're just about run out. We're dropping in and out a little bit here, but just tell me before we go, if there's one tip that you could give to lawyers to bring a little bit better vibe into their workplace, what would it be?
That's a good one. I think it would be, you know, just as simple as saying, greeting someone in the morning and just being kind. Like that, it's that simple. And having an open door policy. You know, you have to make time for your colleagues. It's really important.
Yeah.
I always have an open door policy, and when things happen, people always come to me. So when they make mistakes, I can fix them really quickly because they tell me. And they know I'm going to be kind to them, and I'm not going to judge them, and you know, I'm going to help them.
Yeah, rather than cover up and then exacerbate and then fester something that they're trying to hide. That's as an employer myself, that's, you know, not the way to go. It is absolutely saying, okay, I make mistakes, you make mistakes, we all make them. We're not perfect, so let's just work through that. Yeah, realize the human in everybody, that we're all humans doing our thing. So let's do that together. Yeah, that's beautiful. I like that. And yeah, greet everyone. You know, there's so many people that just sort of walk into work and just get on with it and don't stop for just, you know, a couple of minutes, say, hi, how are you? You know, how's your night? Whatever. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long to just make that connection. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Jenna. I so appreciate you've shown, you know, you've talked about so many really interesting things, particularly the trauma in legal practice and how you're dealing with it, because a lot of people don't realise that aspect as well, which is really quite interesting, and how you're bringing some love into that space and having compassion for your clients and your colleagues, It's the whole gambit of things there. So just down below in the description too, everyone, is Jenna's law firm, Randall Legal. So do connect with them if you're in the area and you need some legal help. I think you've got a couple of firms, do you? Or there's a couple of offices, did you say?
Oh, we have an office in Bangalore as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So do check out Jenna there, and that's fantastic. And also there's some details about Lawyers for Love down below. And we thank everyone for listening today, and hopefully you've gotten a little bit more information. So it's a little bit more helpful to the public to see that, yeah, we're not all just processing lawyers, and we're all trying to bring more humanity into this job of ours as well to help everybody. So thanks again, Jenna, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.